One of the things I've discovered in teaching physical science to ninth graders is that very often they are used to recipe science. So one of the things that we do at the very beginning of school is do the pendulum lab, and we don't do it for the physics behind how a pendulum swings. We do it to instruct the students on how to write their own procedure, come up with what they want to test, make observations. So here is a sample of what I do with the pendulum lab. When the students first come in, they observe a pendulum swinging back and forth. And I ask them to write down observations. They write down many observations about the pendulum, and then we decide how we could change the swing of the pendulum or the period of the pendulum with a way to test a hypothesis that we come up with together. So on the board is a list of things that we came about what they thought might affect the swing of the pendulum. I then tell the students that their homework for the evening is to go home and come up with an experiment to test each one of the items that we have come up with. Incoming freshmen, they may not be very up to taking notes. They may not have ever written an procedure before. So what I do is I tell them that on Edline, which is a grade book that we use, and we can post things to it, that I have a video posted that shows them what we came up with in class, and it would go something like this. So it might say, "Good evening, students. I want to remind you of what your homework is. Your homework tonight is to write the procedure to test one of the items that we came up with in class today." So a reminder, we came up with the pendulum lab. It was what we were doing in class. We made a big list of all the possible things that we thought might affect the swing of the pendulum. We narrowed that list down to 3. So you need to choose one of the following 3 things to write into a hypothesis and to then create a procedure to test. So we had length of string, mass of the bob. Now remember, these were the bobs. This is the bob. Angle of the swing. Easier to measure the angle of the swing with a protractor. And obviously you're not going to have a giant protractor like this. You'll be using protractors like this. Also a reminder, these are the materials that you can use in your experiment. So you want to make sure that these are on your materials list. You have a ring stand and a ring. We have fishing line. We have bobs of different material. We have a cork bob, a wooden bob, a lead bob, and we also have a steel bob. We also have scissors, a protractor, and a ruler to use in your experiment as well. Remember, we talked briefly about hypotheses, and again, this is your first chance to write a hypothesis this year, so it needs to be something that is testable. I know in middle school many people use the if-then statement. If you feel comfortable doing it that way, you could say, if we change the length of the string, the period of the pendulum will change. Something like that could be your hypothesis. You're then going to make steps. Every little step, remember that we talked about writing the steps to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and many people forget to remove the lid of the peanut butter. Remember that when you are writing your procedure, you need to be very specific about everything, including setting up the material that you're using. So, for example, with the ring stand, you might say, attach the ring to the ring stand as one of your steps. You need to be very specific. And tomorrow during class, we will break up into groups according to the items that you decide to test, and we will write those on a giant whiteboard, and we will have our first board meeting. And remember, I explained board meetings to you yesterday, or during the day today, and a board meeting is when you work in a group to come up with some information, and then you share that in a giant meeting where everybody stands in a circle with their board and you discuss the material that is on the whiteboard. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope you come up with some great procedures that we can test tomorrow. So that is how I would present it and post it onto Edline. And the thing that I want to point out in this is that I've sent them home with something to do, and I have posted something online that something that they can go to if they didn't take very good notes. Wanted to point out is the introduction of the board, the whiteboards. I use whiteboards for everything. Whiteboards are a great tool to get the students to come up with the information instead of you feeding the students the information. So the list that you see on the big board here was actually on the small whiteboards. The kids were arranged in groups, and they came up with the lists on smaller whiteboards. We had a board meeting. We decided which ones we thought were the most testable and then made a big list from that. It's a great way for students to see what everyone else has done, as well as how their information compares to other people, and a great way for the teacher to be able to say, oh, let's look at so-and-so's board. What do you think about this? So I use both of those techniques, sending a video home with the kids and using the giant whiteboards in my classroom on a regular basis. Thank you.